saw a program on bad home care. It was just like a light bulb moment. It's like, right, I'm going to do something about this.
I think I realised I was actually looking for something which was more meaningful.
The pride that I would feel going to the pub on a Friday night, meeting your mates, and what would you rather be talking about, making a difference to somebody's life because of the care you're delivering, or I've just delivered a great package.
Right Home wanted leaders.
You do have to ask, why do I continue to pay a percentage of my income on a monthly basis to the franchisor?
When Right to Home, for example, has been introduced, a stronger franchise, I would say, like anything in life, invites examination. They will invite criticism.
There's quite a lot of hoops that Ken makes people jump through before they can come into the franchise. Is that a fair comment?
I think with me, they thought I was probably more into the doing good than the actual making money. And I don't know if they thought I was hungry enough. They wanted to make sure that I was definitely serious.
The first thing that was said to me when I spoke to Right at Home was that if you want to start a business and make a lot of money quickly, you're in the wrong place.
But you're looking for an RM, a registered manager in the beginning, who's going to be someone who can work with a small team and actually be very hands-on. And I had someone who said they wouldn't do any care. We're on similar journeys, aren't we? We're all trying to grow our business. You've got challenges, you've got good things happening.
Did you feel like you could just wave a check at Ken and you were good to go?
I used to meet people and they go, right, we get to this 100,000 quid here. At this point, something doesn't seem quite right about this.
If you want clients, you've got to go out there and get them. Right at Home isn't going to give them to you on your plate. We're giving this opportunity, but you don't just get a pile of banknotes given to you on a silver platter.
How's that been from your perspectives as the franchisees, with Lucy coming in and taking on that CEO role and working with Ken on pushing things forward? If you had a time machine and you could go back to day one or day -1, what would you tell yourself that you know now? What would you tell yourself then? Hello and welcome to the Right at Home podcast, the series of open and honest discussions with franchisees and what it means to run one of these businesses, and also with the leadership team and the people who are supporting them every day.
So my name is Neal. My territory is Bishop Stortford and Braintree, which is Hertfordshire and Essex, if you don't know that. And I have been running that since 2019.
Hakeem Anjorin. My territory is Croydon and Caterham. I've been running that since 2015.
John Houghton. So I've got two territories. The Derby territory I've had since, I think, 2012. And the most recent one, which is East Staffs, since 2019.
I'm Andrew Davis. I started with the Right at Home Bournemouth in 2012, but through circumstance expanded into Right at Home Poole about 3 years later, in 2015.
So you guys have got a couple of territories. You guys have got a single territory. I'm going to come to this side first then, and then come across here. Chris, you've been doing this so about 2 to 3 years now?
Yeah, 3 years, pretty much.
3 years, okay. How are you finding it? What's it like running a social care business? I mean, this is no cakewalk, right?
Well, no, it's definitely not easy. And I think the first thing that was said to me when I spoke to Right at Home was that if you want to start a business and make a lot of money, you're in the wrong place, or making a lot of money quickly or easily, you're in the wrong place. So that was a very clear message which was given straight away. And it's turned out to be true. It is a difficult thing to do, no doubt about it. But it's a challenge, and if you like a challenge, then it's something which you can kind of live up to, I suppose. With
challenge comes reward as well, though, right? Not necessarily just the financial reward.
Yeah, no, of course. And I looked at a lot of different businesses. I looked at a lot of different franchises, and nothing really grabbed me. And the reason it didn't grab me, I didn't realise it at the time, but when I look back, the reason it didn't grab me is because the businesses didn't really mean anything, I suppose. They were quite, I suppose it's a bit harsh to say they didn't mean anything, but I thought it might be quite boring. I think I looked at an international logistics kind of company where you're sort of sending high value goods, maybe sort of 2 or 3 goods a day internationally. And I thought, I think someone said, "Oh, you'd just be a sort of posh shopkeeper." And I thought it's probably true, actually. Then I found care, and I just never looked back, because there's so much potential reward in what you do. It's such a challenge, so it does feel like you've actually achieved something.
That was a big thing for you, right?
It was, yeah. I don't think I realised it at the time, but it was kind of, I suppose it was a latent thing. And I think I realised, looking back, I was actually looking for something which was more meaningful. and care really does kind of achieve that for you.
Yeah, good stuff. Hakeem, what about yourself? Why are you doing this? Why do you run the business?
I came into care from a business career in consulting where I got to the point where I was a bit bored of it. I actually probably, a bit like what Chris was saying, really wanted something in the middle that I actually cared about, and saw a program on bad home care. And that started, it was just like a light bulb moment. It's like, right, I'm going to do something about this, and was going to start from scratch. But obviously, as an accountant, did my research, and my research brought me along to Right at Home, and I spoke to all of the, I guess, well-known franchisors, and Right at Home hit the message of what I wanted, which was, it's about quality. It's about really caring about your people and about what you're doing. And as an ethos that I brought from business was, if you look after quality and customer service, everything else will take care of itself. And I felt that's what Right at Home was about. And
so it really aligned with your values and what you were looking for in a way that the others didn't, that you researched? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I won't name them, but one was more about, I felt like they didn't want any, also I think Right Home wanted leaders. And that's important to me because I wasn't someone who was just going to be, it's a tick box, you just do what you're told. One actually wanted people just to be told. I felt like they wanted you to be a remote control and just do what they needed you to do. And also it was just about money. So I think... and that's not what this industry is all about, right? I know, yes, you can, obviously you're in business to make a profit ultimately, but if you go into it with that, your business looks very different than the business you guys run, doesn't it? Yeah, because I think you're, it's about, cost will be a factor for what you're doing, and potentially there'll be shortcuts. And I think it's about, we look at the long term, and I think we'll want to sleep at night well, that we're doing as good a job as we can for both our clients and our carers. Yeah, good stuff. All right, John, what about yourself? What drew you to care?
So I was previously in the car trade, the motor trade, and the joke is it was easy to put an E on the end of car, so that's why I moved into care. So, but no, in reality, again, I searched the entire marketplace. I looked at just about everything from cleaning, consultancy, logistics. There wasn't probably one sector, gymnasiums, that I didn't look at, and I picked the care sector for a few reasons. One, the certain amount of recession-proof sector to it, and then secondly, about the pride that I would feel about going to the pub on a Friday night, meeting your mates, and what would you rather be talking about, making a difference to somebody's life because of the care you're delivering, or I've just delivered a great package, or I've cleaned an office really well, as an example. So that drew me completely to the care sector, and then I explored, like Hakeem was saying, doing it independently. Why pay for a franchise when you can do it yourself? So then you have to look for value. So what are you going to get from that franchise? And like Hakeem, I looked at every single other company in the franchise sector as well. And again, I won't go into specifics, but there was reasons why I discounted all of them, and I met the CEOs of all those organizations, and I met Ken. And I'll say why I went with Right at Home. And firstly, it was Ken. It was the autonomy that they would allowing you to have within your business. They were giving you a structure. We shared the same beliefs and the same passion of quality and ethics and doing the right thing by your employees and by your customers. But it was clear that I would have the freedom to run the business the way I wanted to run a business, without being a McDonald's franchisee where they tell you how to sweep the floor. As long as you stick within the quality criteria, you're your own business owner, and you can run it the way you want to run it, and as quick as you want to run it, or as slow as you want to run it.
And ultimately, therefore, in that research, and it sounds like you went crazy with it, which is absolutely what you should do. You found that value, you found the reason to pay that franchise fee as opposed to going it alone.
Yeah, well, so much so, I bought a second one. So, you'd like to think that I know enough about the care sector, 10 years in, that, why buy another one? There's a lot more value that you get from a franchise. And you do have to ask, why do I continue to pay a percentage of my income on a monthly basis to the franchisor? And you have to get value for that. And I bought another one, so firmly believe that we're getting more than enough value out of it. There's things that we're achieving as a network that you just wouldn't be able to do individually. And through COVID, as a prime example, the support that we achieved, and the three guys next to me will be a testament to that. You wouldn't be able to do it as an independent. So you have to believe in a franchise system to join it. If you're stubborn and you're not collaborative with your peers, then franchising's not for you.
That's an interesting point, actually, John. Because obviously I'm in an earlier stage of you being 3 years in. But one thing people have said to me is, well, after a few years, you'll know how to do it. You'll know how to run the business. You'll understand the industry. Why would you want to carry on paying? And that it increases obviously as you get bigger. So that's an interesting point there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you should continue to ask that, and you should continue to ask for value out of your franchise, out of Ken and Lucy. Absolutely. In terms of what are you doing for me to make it more than worthwhile, me continuing to pay a percentage of my revenue into the system.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Andrew, how about yourself? Do you? It's interesting listening to John there. 10 years in, he's still finding that value and still happy is maybe not the right word, John, but is still seeing a return on the money that he contributes to Right at Home. Do you agree with that? How are you? Because 10 years in as well, right? You're similar time frame.
That's right. I think John touched on it really well, because the added value, if you really sit down and think about it, you can actually list the tangible things that are given to you. But I think the wider support, and you can talk about the support from Right Home National Office, but it's also as Chris touched upon there as well, the kind of the sort of team ethos. I mean, the four of us would quite comfortably ring each other up if there was an issue we faced. Something I think a lot of people's sort of outside franchising fail to realise is that a lot of us have had lives before. We've all had lives before franchising. So as Hakeem mentioned his background, therefore, when Right at Home, for example, has been introducing a new IT system, his background has been amazing, because he's been able to, as a franchisee, look at it from a franchisee's point of view, but also use his previously earned knowledge and experience to evaluate things like that as they've been introduced.
And that's valued within the network then. A couple of points you touched on there, that collaboration, I think it rings loud and true from all the Right at Home franchisees I've ever spoken with. It's a close-knit network, right? You guys are pulling in the same direction ultimately.
Definitely. And I only know, one of the reasons I'm aware of that is I think I was on a similar panel as kind of the dunce in the world of IT, but just to kind of give a sort of Luddite's view of things. But I think it happens in most areas. And I guess a stronger franchise, and I mean that not just the franchisees, but the franchisor as well, I would say, like anything in life, invites examination. So they will invite criticism, as long as it's constructive, obviously, but they will answer that in a way to either say, actually, we're going to go down this road because we think it's right, or they'll say, well, actually, we'll look at it and give you an opportunity to contribute to whatever project or whatever decision's being made.
And that's important, right? Because you are part of the network. It's important that you feel you can have an influence, a voice, an opinion in it, and that opinion is listened to. Like you say, it may not always be the way that the brand ultimately goes, but you feel like you do have a voice and that your experience matters.
Yes, and I must admit, you've got to accept it can't be a complete democracy. So, but I think I would hope generally, and I'm not saying this to be a company man, but I would hope generally anyone in the network could get in touch with anyone in the Right Home National Office, say, wait a second, this really concerns me. And fine, they may be told actually it's happening anyway, but I would hope most people would feel confident enough to raise an issue if it concerned them.
Yeah, okay, good stuff.
But if you don't feel comfortable raising it direct with National Office, with Ken or Lucy, then there's an informal network where you can raise it as well. So there's peer support where you can go anonymously and have a conversation and a gripe, and then that can be fed back. And a lot of the time it might be, Chinese rumours, etc., where somebody's heard something and it's not actually true, and that those kind of rumours can get quashed quite quickly by peer support networks, and that's again the value of the network. And these conferences, it's not necessarily what you're learning from the structured element of it. It's the conversations that you have in the bar or over a curry like we're going for tonight. That is the peer support that you get out of it, to see that everyone else is in largely a similar position, similar challenges, similar pressures, etc. And you figure it out together, and it's good to know that somebody's going through the same thing as you are.
And that support starts at the beginning. I mean, Andrew was on when I was doing the Right Home once, both the current franchisees to have an input onto the new ones and the new ones to get to know. And Andrew was part of my validation call. And then I happened to be at a wedding in Bournemouth. So I actually came to visit in the office, and the welcome that Andrew and his registered manager gave me, and were even advising on. I remember so you're looking for an RM, a registered manager in the beginning, who's going to be someone who can work with a small team and actually be very hands-on. And I had someone who said they wouldn't do any care, and I sent an email both to Andrew and to Helen, and both of them sent me a long email back on why I shouldn't even think about this person. But it was just, they felt giving and running busy office, but took the time to, because I was thinking it doesn't sound right, but if that's the market it's going to be, that's it. And it was really reassuring that you just got that confidence, and also that they gave the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, you're newest in of the four of you here. Have you seen that as well in your first 3 years? Have you felt the benefit of being able to lean on the experience? Yeah,
no. I mean, I was just actually thinking there, just while you were talking, actually, I've not actually thought about this before, but what you were saying, Andrew, about the willingness to take criticism, constructive criticism, that's a really important part of why I feel part of the team, I suppose. It's a two-way thing. It isn't dictatorial in any sense, and there is that freedom. And that's, I suppose, that's how I only look at it from how I run my own team. It's how I run my team. It's probably why I fit into the network quite well, because I certainly get a sense that if I have something to say, it will be listened to. It might not be accepted, of course, but it'll be listened to, and it'll be listened to seriously. So, I only just thought of that. So yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
And Hakeem, I've heard that there's quite a lot of hoops that Ken makes people jump through before they can come into the franchise. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I think with me, they thought I was probably more into the doing good than the actual making money, and they wanted to shake that, because it's obviously it's here, and I don't know if they thought I was hungry enough. I've been lucky to have a decent career and financially in a good position, but no, I wanted. For me, it was a case of, yes, I'm passionate about what we do, but of course, it's my business, it's my livelihood. I can't do both of what I was doing in the past. So yeah, there was, I think they wanted me to be a bit more show it, because they actually bumped into me at a few of the different franchising exhibitions. So while I was doing my research, I'd rock up and say, "Oh, it's you again. You're talking to someone else." So yeah, so we had a thing of sort of, they wanted to make sure that I was definitely serious and committed.
Yeah, good. And guys, from 2012, was that the case all the way back then? Because the brand was relatively embryonic in the UK in those days, right? You must have been among the earlier franchisees into the network. Was it still selective? Did you feel like you could just wave a check at Ken and you were good to go?
I didn't feel that. I mean, I know it was new when I started, and to be fair, that attracted me to it. But it was clear even then that, I suppose in a sense, it was also selective, because they needed self-starters who there perhaps wasn't the depth of support there is now. So there had to be a certain amount of resilience. But I think what attracted me there was Ken had started a franchise office as if he was a franchisee in Preston, and got that up and running. And I felt it was really valuable that the main man had kind of the franchisee experience of the troubles of attracting clients, of attracting staff, whatever else it might be. And that was really valuable to me. But also, I felt therefore I was being judged on quite clear criteria. Would I be able to do similar, hopefully? And to echo Hakeem, I didn't have much of a business background, and I was relatively honest about that. Well, I was honest about it. And I think at least they realised that was something I would be supported with as things went on. And I did get that support and continue to get it when I need it.
I think support's there if and when you need it. You know, I've been quite self-resilient where they're almost trying to force support on you, and I'm more independent. But the structure has certainly changed over the 10 years, and I certainly never got the feeling back 10 years ago that it was just a take your check and you're done for. Whereas some of the other franchises were clearly that case. It was just a money grab situation, you know, and we'll make promises about guaranteed clients and guaranteed income, and you know, no indication of what the profit margins were going to be on this guaranteed income, etc. And it was great to see that, you know, Ken had been there and done that. But it's amazing to see how the support has changed over that 10-year period, from it just being me having a call from Ken on a fortnightly basis, just seeing how you're getting on, to now the Right Start program and the people that are just employed just to help those new people through the process and the back end structure and everything. And I wouldn't say you can't fail, because clearly you can. It's down to the effort you put into it, and you know, the individual person. And some people are clearly going to do a better job with the same structure than others. But if you've got the right attitude and the right work ethic, the structure is there, and you will be. No reason not to be successful.
Yeah, well put, John. Well put. Chris, newest into the network. Maybe Ken's been doing this for a while. Did you feel you got a bit of a grilling before you were awarded the franchise?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it's clear they're looking for people who fit within a certain mould. So, did I get a grilling? I'm trying to think back. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I had a reasonably good background to come into this. So, I had a bit of financial experience. I was a chartered accountant originally, so I think I had quite a similar background to Ken, actually, because he was the same. So yeah, I don't know whether I got a grilling or not. I think I was, once I'd met, unlike the other guys here, I also met other franchisers. I got the same impression. It was all sales. I used to meet people and they go, right, we get to this 100,000 quid here at this point. And I think this is something doesn't seem quite right about this. And then Right at Home were completely different. So yeah, I mean, I like to think they were picky, but yeah, I don't know.
I think to pick up on what Chris just said there, he now reminds me, even though there were, I think there were 7 or 8 franchisees when I started, the guys I spoke to, as well as Ken and his team, emphasised, if you want clients, you've got to go out there and get them. Right at Home isn't going to give them to you on your plate. And that was echoed with the franchisees as well. It was, we're giving this opportunity, but you don't just get a pile of banknotes given to you on a silver platter. And that really struck me when I went to a franchise exhibition about 18 months or 2 years later, representing Right at Home. I had a number of people saying, right, so where'd you get my clients from? When they were coming to inquire about a Right at Home franchise, I was like, I'm sorry, you've got to go and get them yourself. And they kind of, it sounds like a joke, or it sounds like some sort of cartoon, but they sort of walked off in the huff because I said, well, you've got to go out and get them. And that really surprised me. So maybe the other franchises they were looking at were raising their expectations to levels they shouldn't have been at.
Probably. They're the contract-driven social, the public sector, isn't it, really, where they've got guaranteed contracts. So they'll have a national agreement, etc., and those kinds of things. Whereas predominantly private, you're able to deliver the more quality, etc., but you don't have that guaranteed work coming in.
Yes, and I don't know if that's relevant to what we're talking about. The private care model, fine, a lot of us do some local authority work, but the private care model is such that it's, as John says, higher quality, but actually it tends to attract staff because it's in your gift how it's done, and our gift is to do it in a hopefully outstanding manner.
And a lot of that is about not rushing, having longer calls. It's really important to clients and carers that they actually have the time to do. Carers have the time to do what they need to do, and clients aren't feeling rushed, and that's part of what you can do in a private care model. You made me think of Ken's experience of actually running a Right at Home office before starting to franchise. I went to one company who basically they weren't going to do that because they could sell you, they could get the clients for you. They offered me half of basically the south of the river, every territory there. I would start one and I'd have resale of the rest of them. And I'm like, well, what have you proven of what you've done? I know we don't need to prove that. I'm a sale and marketing person. they were trying to give a little story about their family connection, that his wife had done some care for her mum. And that was their story. And then the rest of it was, I was going to be their poster boy and I was going to work my socks off to get them going. It's like, well, this seems, why am I paying for this? It's like, so yeah, the contrast in what Ken was able to say, not only his McDonald's experience, his care home, and he'd also run the Preston office, was like just miles above what that other person was doing, even though they were offering me more, but more of what? It's nothing really, isn't it? It's a brand that had no substance to it unless I was going to make it.
Yeah, sure. And you've all talked about Ken. He was obviously leading the business in as the CEO when all of you guys came in. I think Lucy's now the CEO, Ken's now the chair. Leadership vital in any business, any franchise, and especially in a social care business for sure. How's that been from your perspectives as the franchisees, with Lucy coming in and taking on that CEO role and working with Ken on pushing things forward? Chris?
Oh, well, it's been seamless, really, because those two work together so closely and there's a lot of trust. So it's been completely seamless. And I think everyone in the network supports Lucy. And everyone knows Ken is still there, not in quite the same capacity, but he's not too far off, I imagine. So yeah, for me, it's it was a good decision, and it's been seamless.
And guys, you've been around a bit longer. How did you find it?
My personal view of it, this is going to sound rather sycophantic, but the thing that's really struck home with me is we often talk about succession planning and bringing someone on to. When you talk about selling your business and building up the value in it, ultimately the value in a business is if you can own it, but not have to be doing the detail or being too hands-on day to day. And I think the way that the Right at Home operation has transitioned to Lucy running it is a lesson to us all in terms of how we might transition to someone else running our businesses for us, but with us maintaining a detailed understanding of what goes on. And I think as Chris said, it's been seamless. There's been no drop off. There's been no real, there's been no problems at all. And I think we should all aim to achieve that in our own operations. I
echo that exactly. And that's what I was thinking today during our FAC meeting, is like it is the way we would all want to go if is to get a good succession planning. I'd also say, though, that what they've done is not just about it being Lucy transitioning to the CEO role, but also the team underneath has grown and has developed. And so it's actually a really supportive thing. She's not there on her own. She's got a good team that's basically getting better every year.
It has worked incredibly well, as the guys have alluded to, and you can't deny that for a fact, and we are getting stronger. But it was built probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, and I've been around long enough to actually see the challenges prior to that, before Lucy was even contemplated as becoming the CEO, and some internal politics and some people not being the quite right fit in the national office, etc., and some of the challenges that we went through. And there was challenges that Ken had to overcome, just is the testament now to the success that they are having and were having as a result of that. I think it was more challenging than what people actually see to get to where we are now. It was a bigger challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And vital that it was that seamless. Again, these are such important businesses. All the businesses you guys run are so important in the community, right? This is, as you guys have said very eloquently, it matters. What your businesses do matters.
And I think to what John's saying as well is the transparency and openness that Ken and the team have had to talk about the good and the challenges is also refreshing, because it could have been some people might national office might have the attitude of, well, we'll only show the good and we'll hide the not, but they've been open and transparent. I think we all respect that. It just makes you see we're on similar journeys, aren't we? We're all trying to grow our business. You've got challenges, you've got good things happening.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, I'm going to ask a few quick fire questions. Same question, Chris. Unfortunately, I'm going to start with you again for the first one, but I promise I'll reverse on the next.
It's unfair because everyone gets the chance to listen.
So, 3 years for you, Chris. What are you proudest of achieving with your business and over that time?
Yeah, that's required a little bit of thinking about that. I think just that the response and the feedback that we get from a client point of view is most pleasing. So if I look at the feedback scores we get, the feedback commentary we get online, it's all so positive, and I think that's what I'm proudest of. I would say actually, coming up second, just behind, is the team. The team that I have is so much stronger this year, and we're in sort of year 3 now. But I've noticed such a feeling that they've got each other's backs, and that gives me a lot of. I suppose the worry of running a business is not quite there. In the early days, you really do have a lot to worry about. But once you've built a team and once you've got the right people in the right positions, then you have that security. You know that they will look after things for you. So that is this year has made it that I can see a real difference in the team. So that's coming up a close second.
Good stuff. That's 2 pretty good answers, guys. Good luck, Andrew, by the time we get round. Hakeem?
Number one is that it is an established quality business. I mean, even though I was confident, you don't know until you're there. And I'll just give you a quote. We had a client rang up last week and said that a palliative nurse in the hospital was talking to her and said the only company to go to in the Croydon area is Right at Home, and I actually don't even know the nurse. So it's that type of validation of what Chris is saying, is the quality of what we're doing, and this is a reputation we're getting. I didn't just come in it to be doing it. I want it to be the highest quality we can be, and get that reputation that people think of Right at Home is the company to use.
Yeah, and that's a pretty special moment when someone you don't know is saying that about what you do, right? Mm-hmm. John, how do you follow that?
Okay, Andrew, good luck following that. Well, ditto to those things. I can share the same experience. My people, my team is what you're most proud of. They're the ones that are out there every single day, 365 days a year, 24/7, putting our clients before themselves, before their family. I'm most proud of the recognition that they get for the hard work that they do, whether it be national awards, winning Skills for Care, Best Employer in Care that we've won, or internal awards from Right at Home. But yeah, most proud of my people and the support that they give to the clients.
Good stuff. Andrew, what's left?
I think the other 3 have thoroughly stolen most of the possible answers. But what I'm proudest of, if I put those to one side, but all are things I agree with, we were fortunate enough, because we worked hard to achieve it, to be awarded an outstanding rating by the Care Quality Commission. Now, it sounds perhaps big-headed of me to announce that, but the importance of that is it first of all demonstrates how committed and superb my carers are. It demonstrates how good my team are at training, monitoring, and inspiring them to do great things. But also it demonstrates how much the clients appreciate the care and the value they get out of it. Along with, for example, community partners such as social services and charities who also get consulted by the Care Quality Commission as part of their inspection. And I never used to be a fan of cliches, but one of the Right at Home taglines is making a difference every day. And I think all of us, without sounding too syrupy about it, would agree that we do make a difference to our clients every day.
He did well. He still found quite a lot there, right? Okay, so coming back this way this time, maybe it's harder going first. What about tough challenges? There's tough times in this business, right? What about what's the toughest moment you can recall at a 10-second question?
I think it's probably not unique to care, but it's just sometimes uncertainty when you internally have to give yourself a good talking to and present to your team, maybe your family or whoever, that you're gonna get through a difficult patch. And it's easy to harp on about leadership and what have you, but as a leader, I feel you're a communicator, and you even when you're not sure what's going to happen, you have to communicate how you're going to navigate a sticky patch. And developing that confidence in yourself when things aren't going right can be very challenging. So I'd say navigating your way out of sticky situations is probably the most difficult challenge. And specifically, I think, is getting the right people on board to be part of your team.
Yeah, sure. John?
Yeah, clearly you're running a business, and if you're not prepared to put it with the stress and the 24/7 and the nature of running a business, and the buck stops with you, then it's not right for you. But this is more than most other things. This is a people business, and if you're not a people person, and if you don't want to hire and be around people and embrace that, then again, it's not right for you. But the downside, if you do love that, is occasionally you get let down, and certainly in the early days of setting up the business, you were on call 24/7 as an individual. It's not necessarily the big thing, but you might be eating Sunday dinner with your family and somebody's not turned up for the care call. Guess what? You're going to be going out there doing it. So those early challenges of being on call, being the go-to person 24/7 is you have to be prepared to do it. You grow through it, and it gets easier with scale when you got more people and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. But also the problems get bigger at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
The term I describe of care is I'm relying on the unreliable. And I don't actually mean that individually people are unreliable. It's the fact that we do have to do it 365 days a year. And we've got 24/7, and you're never going to have one person who can do all of that. So it's that whole thing of having the team, having enough people. And yeah, sometimes people will let you down and you've got to find someone else. So that's what I mean by relying on the unreliable. But that is the challenge, really. You've always got to find that person, because the care isn't gonna stop. So you've got to find that person to do it, and it's not always the first person. It might be the second. It might be the third.
Yeah, fair point, Chris.
I suppose it's kind of the fear of failure, I suppose, but it's not necessarily the fear of failure in itself. It's where it starts to look like it's quite close. So, I've been through, it's a difficult time to start a business at the moment anyway, with the background. And to start with, everything that John was saying about you have to be ready to step out, and it's a 24/7 thing. Yes, definitely. And I was always kind of relaxed with that in a sense when I had enough cash in the bank. But when you go through a rocky period and you start to think, hang on, if this carries on for another 6-12 months, I could be in serious trouble here. And that I suppose has been the most difficult period for me. That was last year. Last year was a difficult year. So it's learning to deal with that moment, because you're told when you start this you need resilience. You need a well of resilience. And one of the things I thought about myself was I've got loads of resilience. But that really did test me, I have to say, that period of time. And it lasted a few months. And it's, just fighting your way through it, making sure you don't succumb to that failure. So I would say that's the toughest moment. Obviously, it feels good when you start to come out of it.
What changed for you? You talked about the team earlier. Was that the key thing? You got the right people in the right places?
Yeah, I think, definitely, yeah. Certainly the team, having the right people in the right places, and creating the right team spirit, creating an ethos in the team. And I think that grew over time. And then, as with this business, you're a hostage to the recruitment market, and that's really what drives a lot of your failure or success. And this year, earlier in the year, the fortunes changed a little bit, and that combined with a better team spirit has really kind of pushed us on. So I'd say those are the two key things which enabled me to sleep at night.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. All right, a much quicker one this time. In one word, what does Right at Home stand for? That logo that's above your office and on all of the stuff you do, what does it stand for?
Add values.
Hakeem?
I'm allowed to say the same, because that was the word I was going to say. Quality.
They're the two that I was going with. Values, I would say, or ethics.
If I'm not allowed any of them, I was going to go with quality. But if I can't have that, I'd say commitment. But quality would be my first.
All good stuff. Okay. And then, Andrew, coming to you first this time, and it's the last one of these ones. You've been doing this 10 years. If you had a time machine and you could go back to day one or day -1, what would you tell yourself that you know now? What would you tell yourself then?
Don't worry.
That's quite a difficult one, actually. I mean, I'm not going to say life's been easy, because it hasn't. But I think because I didn't have a background in business or accounting or anything like that, I'd probably be more almost academic and almost more technical in understanding the business and financial side of it. But that's very peculiar to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly it. Look, ultimately, you guys are running similar businesses, but you're very different people. And as you've said eloquently, you've got the freedom to shape those businesses the way you want. So I think that's a great answer. John, what about you? If you could go back 10 years, what would you tell younger John?
It wouldn't necessarily be telling myself, but it would be more how I would structure things differently. I'm trying to go multi-territory and have plans to continue to expand. And I would now tell people to set up your business from day one as a bigger business with the correct structure in place, whether it be accounting, account codes, regions, etc., so that it's easy transition to move into a bigger, more scalable business rather than keeping it just as a one site or, a smaller business. Start with a bigger project in mind rather than just the individual office.
Yeah, okay. Good answer. Hakeem?
So I see we got two teams. We've got the care team, which was the challenges of getting carers. I think I probably would have tried to do something differently office-wise, because I think and the part of it is resources, the right resources, maybe even the coaching of those resources. Because I've had a fair bit of turnover office-wise, which has hindered growth. Carers has been fine, but the office team. So I think I would have approached it differently. I think part of what John said is actually having more people in the beginning. So, but yeah, I think that was my learning.
Yeah, it's interesting because the carer recruitment's normally the thing that's tough here, right? But
yeah, I think it's been tough, but we've been able to. The last year or so has been the hardest, but it's. I think that having that longevity within the office team has been our challenge. That's been my particular one. So hopefully we're going to move on from that.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And Chris, only 3 years for you, but what do you know now that you wish you'd known then?
I think the only thing I can think of really for this is just over a period of time, with recruitment difficult, you become almost scared to ruffle feathers, I suppose. Not that you want to be ruffling feathers all the time, but you have to be very clear about certain standards. And I think for a period of time, there were certain things I let go, which I stopped doing about a year ago. And I think just being very clear about expectations with people, and if people don't meet them, to feed that back and not be worried about it, regardless of the recruitment situation. So yeah, don't have bad eggs in the company. And actually, even though it might seem like a really difficult decision, sometimes making the next few weeks very difficult in the long run makes a very big difference to team morale, if you deal with a problem and you deal with it properly. And
final thing for everyone, you'll be pleased to hear. If I'm listening to this, I'm hopefully at least exploring my options, considering franchising, considering right at home potentially, or care. What would you say to me, given the benefit of all your experience? What would you advise me to do or to think? What can I gain from your experience if I'm thinking about doing this?
Talk to franchisees, talk to the office and find out about their structure, and do your own research.
You've got to be eyes wide open. It's not easy. I think Chris said it, or somebody said it. There's easier ways to make money than doing this, but there's not many more. There's not one I can think of where you get the same reward out of it for making the difference, etc. But if you just want to make money, don't do it.
I think you have to love the grind. I heard that said by Eddie Jones. You have to love the process. You can't just think, I'll set it up and I'll get to a certain level and I will have achieved something. You have to really love the stages that you go through, and you have to question whether this challenge is something that you really want to take on. And if you think you're going to get enjoyment out of giving something back, then it could possibly be for you. But you have to know that, really. You have to have an inkling at least before you start, because if you do, then it really is worth it.
Actually, just thinking of Chris talking about knowing you have the inkling, both from my experience of researching and then setting up, but also from having people talk to me about potentially becoming a franchise owner, you have to know that at some point you are the one who decides. You can't endlessly ask advice or ask for guidance, because it's that stepping out the door thing. It's that stepping off the curb. There is always going to be that bit of uncertainty, and unless you've got that inkling that you want to do it, it's that self-belief. And despite that slight nagging doubt somewhere, just go for it.